folks, and welcome to this gorgeous Sunday. And why you be outside in the nice weather, if you have it, when you can be indoors streaming to you? And I will try to keep this stream listener friendly more than visual friendly. Well, you're fully allowed to watch at this face if you want to, but I will try to make this an audio friendly stream so you can listen to it outside in the sun or rain, depending on where you live. It is 6 p.m. here in Sweden. Should be around noon, US Eastern Standard Time, and it is probably around midnight in Korea and tomorrow in Australia. But since Australia doesn't exist, either way, welcome here to this first stream about young thug and the RICO trial. And I thought I had a bit of hesitation towards how much I would cover this trial, because first of all, it has been a bit of so far. This trial should have started 4 or 5 months ago. But after 2 days of juryselection, it just didn't happen. But so today we are watching a few snippets I can comment on from what has been going on since then and during that time. And the reason I'm still a bit hesitant is because I've had reports that this trial might take half a year to go through. And that's a big commitment. That's a huge commitment. So now, will I cover it? Yes. Will I cover it on a daily basis? Maybe. Will I make full coverage streaming every single day? Probably not, but at least so I can give you updates daily or every 2 days. So that would be my plan, at least. But if this trial goes really interesting from the get-go, I will try to stream as much as I can from it. So now, what interest do I have as a Swedish old metalhead for a trial against an American rapper? Well, we don't have much in common, but RICO trials, that intrigues me. And so that is one of the reasons why I thought this might be fun, not just for me to learn about it, but for us to learn about RICO trials together, how it's built up, what it has to contain, what the evidence for the RICO, because a RICO is the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act of 1970. So it's a very broad thing, and apparently it's quite hard to reach the level to get to a RICO trial, but here they got it. So that was really, really intriguing for me. By the way, I see the usual suspects are here. Indigo Luna, Mads, Jamie, Feral Housewife, Mo is around, Troy is around. It's me, Josie, Salty Dog, Indigo, Kim Farnham, yeah. And I have to say thank you to the person who supported me via PayPal. I will not say the name of it, because I suspect that name is not the same as the alias in the chat. Oh crap, I thought RICO was a person. yeah, that's one of the reasons, because RICO is so unusual. Not many people know exactly what it is, and that's intriguing. So we can learn about this together. Yeah. Oh, it's 11 a.m. in Minneapolis. Cooler weather today. 70 Fahrenheit, 20 degrees centigrade. So planning a walk. Very nice. And be sure to have me in your ear. Where was I? Yeah. Thank you to the person who gifted via PayPal. You know who you are. I know who you are. But I don't think you want me to bring out your name in the public, because, well, if you use something else in the chat, then I won't reveal who you are. Ooh. Jamie gifted 1 membership to, and the winner was Kayla Ollie. Congratulations, Kayla Ollie. And let's just get the grift out of the way. I prefer, if you become a member, you will have access to member-only content, and it allows me to plan ahead of things I can improve the channel with. For instance, new equipment, new sound, better lighting, because, well, light bulbs. But I actually got a ring light too. So thank you, members, for allowing me to plan ahead. And I have to adjust that thing there. Something. Yeah, there. So I can, so I can plan ahead and improve my channel. So thank you so very much for becoming a member and accepting memberships. David is here on from MLS Law Show. Did I send you a link, David? If you want to come on and help out, I would appreciate it. But just say so, and I will send you a link. Fancy lighting, yeah, it's $20. Well, the members so far have allowed me to. I have this StreamYard Pro. I have something called the Art List I can subscribe to. I have a separate internet to just the streams and everything like that. And so that allows me to improve the channel. And I might have for my casual streams. Oh, thank you so much, David, for advertising. Advertising? Yeah. I put an ad out on our Jodi Ari stream for the trailer we made. And it showed I spent $20 on that, and it cost about 16 cents per interaction. I had it up for a week. Don't know if it improved numbers, but maybe I will do another $20 ad campaign on Facebook later on. I don't know. $20 is, it's still $20, but if it can help people reach me or David on MLS Law Show, it's a plus. Now, first of all, Young Thug. No idea who it is. Don't know if I've heard his music. He's apparently a rapper. $20 is $20. That's what she said. There might be a few innuendos and snark and stuff on this channel as well, if you're new here. So yeah. Now, who is Young Thug, this rapper? And Jeffrey Lamar Williams, known professionally as Young Thug, is an American rapper, singer, and songwriter. He is considered to be an influential figure of his generation, with his music impacting the modern sound of hip-hop and trap music. Trap is a subgenre of hip-hop music that originated. The genre gets its name from the Atlanta slang word trap house, a house used exclusively to sell drugs. Okay. Thug initially released a series of independent mixtapes. Okay. He signed with Gucci Mane. I don't know the translation. And released his debut mixtape, Thug, to critical praise. A few hits, apparently. Had a studio album in 2019. Compilation album and stuff like that. Label issues. Musical, personal life. Young Thug has 6 children by 4 women. Okay. And then legal issues. Okay, he's been arrested a few times. Either way, that's... Now we all know a little bit about him. I really have no idea what trap music... How old is he? Let's see here. Dun, dun, dun. Scroll up. He's born 1991, so he is 31, soon to be 32 years old. Yeah, so now we know a little bit about him. He's a rap artist, influential. I have never heard of him before this, because for me, it's the RICO part that interests me. But what is RICO? I found this as a little bit of an explanation, and if that's not enough, I actually pulled up the RICO Act so we can read from that. But let's listen to this.
In the 20th century, mafias were ruling the roost, engaging in high-level corruption, bribery, and violence. While they were able to apprehend enforcers, they couldn't tie kingpins to the crime. Al Capone, for instance, was taken down by tax laws. So, in 1970, President Nixon signs the Racketeer Influenced Corrupt Organizations Act, or the RICO Act, to target these mob bosses. By the 1980s, federal prosecutors like Rudy Giuliani effectively used the RICO Act to bring down the city's 5 mafia families.
Okay,
Giuliani got indictments against the Lucchese crime family, who rigged bids for window contracts to the tune of $142 million. But what is the RICO Act, and how does it work? The RICO Act lets prosecutors target an enterprise who conduct any of these charges. Then, prosecutors can indict members of the enterprise to all the crimes committed by any member of the organization. In mob prosecution, this allows leaders of the gangs to be prosecuted. But as the war on crime and the fear of super predators started happening in the 90s, RICO started to shift from criminalizing mob families to street gangs.
They are not just gangs of kids anymore. They are often the kinds of kids that are called super predators. No conscience, no...
Is that Hillary Clinton?
In recent years, a study found that 86% of RICO cases prosecuted people of color. Thousands of people have been convicted under RICO.
The street gang has been made into a folk devil, right? A pathological folk devil, like a cancer that has infected US society. The person who is charged would say, if you hit them with the RICO Act, you say, well, if you don't plead guilty and you go before a jury, you're facing 20 years to life, right? And so the person, cops a plea. He says, okay, I did it. Just give me the lesser charge. Often, a lot of the times, there was just a bunch of kids hanging on the corner. It's like ridiculous to put the same people in the same kind of category.
To many experts, the use of the RICO Act is wrong because it ignores the realities of the lives of those who live in marginalized community and it allows prosecutors to hold anyone responsible for the worst thing anyone in their circle has done. In 2016, federal prosecutors launched the biggest indictment of street gangs using the RICO Act.
Today we announce what is believed to be the largest gang takedown in New York City history. We have charged 120 defendants in 2 rival Bronx street gangs with racketeering, narcotics, and firearms offenses.
And federal prosecutors have dozens more in the works, with hundreds of people wrapped up in a conspiracy law not originally designed to target them.
Okay. Now we know a bit more about that. Oh, Fondwin became a member. Welcome. There is members-only material on this channel's page. So you can go there, watch videos, interact with the other members and stuff like that. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. That gave us a bit of history and why they use it. And that was interesting. Poor gang members. Yeah, but again, prosecuting every single individual for the worst crime in that. Well, if they are in collusion with each other committing those crimes, I still can understand a bit why. But if it's used as an extortion to just get people to plead guilty, how many false confessions does that make? Oh well. So let's check out. There. This is the RICO Act from 1970. Racketeer, Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. U.S. federal statute targeting organized crime and white-collar crime. That second part I don't think is applied against Young Thug. Because I don't think it's purely economic crimes. Either way. Since being enacted in 1970, it has been used extensively and successfully to prosecute thousands of individuals and organizations in the United States. Part of the Organized Crime Control Act of 1970, the Racketeer, Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, RICO, makes it unlawful to acquire, operate, or receive income from an enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity. Okay. So that more or less is what we here in Europe would. That's, for instance, what one of the charges against Andrew Tate. That he his what was it now again? Human trafficking and yeah. Oh well, either way. So that's a bit of what he is, what the RICO Act is. If you want me to do a video on exclusively the RICO Act, probably not. We will learn along the way in when this trial continues. Now, the trial started of sorts about 5 months ago with hearings for the RICO Act, if they could this is not an Andrew Tate stream. I will have more Andrew Tate streams where we can discuss him more about 5 months ago with the hearings about the RICO Act and there. So they concluded, yes, it is according to the RICO Act. then they started about 4.5 months ago to have a jury selection. And they managed to have 2 of those days. And a bit of hell broke loose. And so let's see here. It apparently, let's see here, I am going to show a bit about that here, what happened. Because apparently, one of the people who were called for jury duty didn't show up, and that's a bad thing. Thank you, Wolfram, for gifting 5 memberships to Alan Walsh, Great Success, Stephanie Bland, One Blessed Nana, Iris and Tex. Iris in Texas? Something. Congratulations. A few of you have already been members, so this is a renewal of your memberships. And I will make more videos for members only, I promise. Thank you so much, Wolfram. Let's see here. Dun, dun, dun. Tractor up. This is what happened.
Madam, what's on your mind or heart I need to know about?
And understand, I don't have all my chronology, so the questions I may ask, maybe a little bit different than what probably should be asked at this point in time. But I'll ask her, does the court want me to swear in?
Yeah, we'll swear in. Madam, could you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the information you'll give me in the matter now in hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and none but truth, so help you God so affirm?
Yes.
Okay, you can put your hand down.
Your Honor, may I please refer to her as juror number 64?
You certainly may.
Juror number 64.
No promises. No promises.
Recitation from the court as to what occurred in this matter that causes you to be here today. Is there something that you would like to explain to the court as to why you didn't show and what were the circumstances surrounding your non-appearance?
Yes. First, like receiving the jury summons. I don't think,
Speak up if you wouldn't mind.
actually just receiving the jury summons. I travel a lot. I've always traveled a lot globally for work and other things, but I traveled. I wasn't here Thanksgiving week, the week of the 28th. So, and I don't think I returned until like the 16th. I was in the UK. And because I live with my grandmother, I didn't go because I was exposed to travel, didn't want to make her sick. So I don't think I actually saw the summons until like the 30th.
The 30th of December?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, from travel and just abstaining from the household to not make.
When did you
sick.
book your travel for the Dominican Republic?
So that was also a business trip from a partnership, and that travel was, I think it was booked like the 29th, but it's been on my calendar
Of
since
December?
the 1st. I didn't book it.
Friendly advice, not legal advice. If you have a summons for jury duty, reply to it if you can't show. Give reasons. Don't ignore it. If you do, this might happen.
And then booked it for that particular.
Hold on 1 minute. Yeah, I have a document that may assist the court with that information. If I could present that to the court.
Absolutely.
All right.
And that trip
Hold
wasn't
on 1
okay.
minute. And I'll hand these up to the court.
Are they part of court one that we gave you, Mr. Thomas?
I don't think that those are the booking information. I don't think the court gave me. The clerk gave me.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
I'll mark it as. Let's see. Well, this would be R1, respondents 1. So.
I forgot to swoop. I will swoop after this.
I'll mark. It's a 6-page document. It starts out with Gotcha's Breakfast Bar and goes on, and it has her booking information. I'll admit it for consideration as R1, respondents 1, and some of the information we do have already, Mr. Thomas, but I will include that. So I'll admit it.
All right, juror number 64, you can continue to explain to the court.
And that day, like I said, I received the jury summons really late, so and I didn't really fit any of those 4 options listed, so I came. And then at that day, when you said it, I asked when we were checking out, 'cause it was a long day, I asked, was there any exception to the process? Because it was Wednesday and the hardship things were on Monday. So I asked, my trip started on Friday and it was a business related trip. And I asked, was there any exception? They said the best you could do was send an email with the details and explanation. And I also know I had these medical appointments. I have 5 weeks of scheduled infusions for the next 5 weeks, starting the 20th upon my return. But they said send an email, and I did the first thing the next morning. I also called aggressively trying to get through. And that voicemail, I called it, I checked yesterday, it still says if you have an issue, send it with your jury summons, send an email, and you will not be penalized or something. So I sent that. I didn't really know I was in violation until the sheriff showed up. And even then he said, when you come back, come down. So after I realized it was I had a warning, that it was basically because family members started calling me from seeing the news or reading the paper or whatever. And I called back then, I couldn't leave. I would have immediately returned, but I was on a boat and I had no way to get off. So.
Ms. Hayes, let me ask something. I mean, this is not your first jury service in Fulton County, is that correct?
No, and I've never, but it normally doesn't go like this. And I thought I was following directions.
And that's part of the challenge I think you're facing is that, because I've read through the documentation that you provided that's fairly contained within courts. The court exhibit I just gave, what's that number, Christina? Course 23. And then why didn't you just apply for a medical waiver? And if your health condition, you could have done that, and that would have earlier and gone ahead and not been in this particular position. But
because the jury summons said you had to do it 10 days before, I saw it really late.
so you're saying that when you had your, you didn't get because of your travel, that your notice sat in your grandma's home, and then I'm just. So
I returned from the UK, I know around the 17th. I had a doctor's appointment on the 20th. I didn't go home. I usually don't go home until 7 to 10 days if I've been exposed, because my grandmother's elderly and pandemic and all that good stuff. So I know I didn't see the summons till after Christmas. I didn't go home till after Christmas.
So you didn't go home, and so you're.
Yeah. So this is also, except for all the RICO, this will teach us what might happen if you misunderstand the rules around being called to jury duty. So this is a good lesson for all of us. My dog stepped on the June bug. Is Jamie here? Oh, Jamie loves June bugs, just so you know it. She absolutely loves them. So what she's requiring us to believe is that the grandma did not say you have official looking mail. Oh, yeah, not the brightest in that case, but let's see.
Your grandma's, you didn't look at your mail until that point in time?
No, my mail was home. No.
Say again?
No, I didn't have my mail.
Okay.
Earlier from the clerk shows that I think the total amount of her trip, according to the document I have here, is about $6,900.
Yes, I'm in possession of that. That the total cost of her. Madam, when did you send in this documentation? Did you send it in prior?
The same day. That usually when I came on the if it was Wednesday, I did it. We left here late Wednesday. I did it first thing.
I'm sorry,
morning.
you're
on the 5th.
Are you referring to the email? You're asking her about the email that she sent?
I'm asking about when she sent her itinerary to jury services. Did you-
Immediately the next day, the 5th.
Okay, then why not send it earlier? I mean, if that were the case, I mean, you obviously saw this is probably going to be a problem. So why not send it to jury services and put us on the ready even before, because on the 4th, theoretically, I mean, we could, I mean, we do excuse people that have travel that is booked prior to their jury summons. So I don't know if you'd fall in that particular category, but we do take a look at that. I mean, if you've got pre-planned travel that clearly was booked prior to your jury summons, that is something that we can consider. But
Yeah, honestly, Your Honor, I have my mail was stacked. I did.
I'm sorry, you have to speak up.
I
I'm
said,
sorry.
honestly, Your Honor, my mail was stacked. I went through and I saw it said you had to do it within 10 days, I believe it said. So my thought was just to show up, to not be, every move I've made is
I
to
don't
not
know.
be negligent of the jury summons. So
Maybe
I showed
this
up,
court
but I
takes it
didn't
more
receive that
serious
summons
than
until
others.
like the 30th or something like that.
Did you also make calls to jury management?
Yes. Even when I
This
was here
was
that
in,
day and realized, when I first started, they said
yeah.
you still have to wait to the end of the day, go through the process. We're here then, as the day
This
got
was 4
longer, the
months ago.
process was changing. When I was leaving
So
there, they said,
February,
the best thing you can do is just
January,
send an email."
February. Probably,
So
because
if I
this
started
is
on the
a
30th, if I would have sent the
big
email, it
trial,
still would have been getting to you like on
not
the
a
2nd,
traffic
3rd, when it
court
was
or
time for
something
me
like
to
that.
show up.
Madam,
The
anything else?
case has been postponed a few times because of
Well,
shenanigans,
no,
and that's why I'm doing this
December
stream
30th, that
to
would've been
so
a
we can
Saturday
get caught
also,
up with
you
it.
know, New Year's.
They are having
New Year's was on
jury
Sunday, I believe,
selections
this year.
started
30th.
again Friday.
Would have been Friday. I believe it would have been Friday. So, Your Honor, I think she made good faith efforts, but I'll also indicate, Courtney, I don't know how relevant that might be, not knowing all of your procedures, just getting involved in this matter, is that when I was outside this morning, outside your courtroom,
Local
I heard
rules,
your jury
I guess.
management people out there telling people as they come up that the jury management voicemail or whatever it is that people call into changes every day. The message changes. Now, I don't know how that affects people's requests. I don't know how relevant that might be to the court.
It's not really relevant, but I'll tell you, and I'll fill you in on that, Mr. Thomas. That particular, it's relevant for people who are assessing when they're supposed to report. So Ms. Von Kelsch tells that letter instructs them saying, hey, call after 5 o'clock. And then your juror number tells you, I mean, the message will tell, hey, jurors, 4, 5, 6, 7, I'm just making that up. You need to report X date and time in courtroom 1C or 1D. That's what it does. It does change daily, but we told the jurors reporting on the 4th, 5th, and 6th that they need to call that particular number. Now, I gave them also in-court notice when we were, so I told them that, I told your client she would need to appear back on the 9th. So I did give in-court notice, and then Ms. Von Kelsch changes the message so that particular grouping. So for example, we're not finished with all the hardships at this point in time.
Subtitles
So
added.
those particular individuals
I will
are
remember that,
calling jury services number nightly to find out when they're going to have
for
to
the
come
next
back
couple of
and
videos.
examine. So that's how it changes.
Thank you, Jamie, for gifting one more
One on the website and
membership.
one on the letter.
And it was Jamie B who got it.
Okay.
Jury service line for regular traverse jurors and grand jurors, and then there is another line reserved for this case.
And Your Honor, may I ask for the court as the court was giving a recitation of how things occurred on the voicemail for jury management, is there in fact a message? And of course I have to ask because I don't know. Is there in fact a message that tells a potential juror that if they send in certain documents attached with whatever request that they're making, they won't be penalized? Because that could be
1
misleading.
hour of court time, yeah. That's a lot of people in there.
No.
So
It just tells
judge,
them when to report.
I don't know, $100 an hour. Lawyer, $300 an hour. Court reporters,
It's not penalized.
$20 an hour.
According to her, she says that's something that on the
Guards,
enforcement that says
$20
you
an
do
hour.
whatever you're being told to
It
do,
adds
so
up.
you won't be penalized.
I just realized this moment there's two numbers because I don't know what I do with the letter actually. I was
I'm
tired.
sorry, your mind.
I don't know what I do with the letter actually because I was tired today and I started responding to you guys the next morning. So I went back to that initial jury page and that's the number I've been calling. That's the number I got through on yesterday. So when I hear it, I just had an aha moment that there are two numbers.
Anything else you want to tell me, Madam or Mr. Thomas?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Jury number 64. The reason I went through that whole admonition to all of your group at the very end of the day is because, and you may have heard me, talk at the very beginning about the importance of jury service. We have a lot of people that we ask to serve. It doesn't make a difference what vocation or avocation you belong or you have. It is that important. It mirrors or is right up against that right, your right to vote. So when, we take this very
Well,
seriously in order
35%
to
of
get a
Americans
lawful
vote,
and a
so
fair and a just jury as to both sides. So, there are a lot of people that were inconvenienced. I mean, severely inconvenienced. You're not the only person that outlaid money. I examined people yesterday who lost literally hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to be here, and I have to make decisions in regards to that. But I didn't even get a chance to examine you about your circumstance because you went to, you said, okay, I'm going to go and you didn't afford me the opportunity to do that. Now, certainly, I understand you can't be in two places at one time. So, ordinarily, madam, I do find you in contempt, but here's what I'm going to do. Contempt is punishable easily by a fine of $1,000 and or 20 days in jail. I am not going to fine you. I'm going to, well, first, madam, did you attend college?
Yes.
You have a 4-year degree?
Yes, Southern Tech. Yes.
Say again?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. What I then want to do is, in order for you to satisfy your contempt, I'm going to commute the 20 days and require you to write a 30-page paper on the importance of jury service. Here's the criteria. You'll have to do APA style. You're going to have to use at least 10 primary sources, 10 secondary sources. You'll talk in a minimum, and I'll write this in the order. You'll have an order. You'll have it before you leave here today. You're going to write at a minimum, the history of jury service, who could not serve on a jury, because that's very important, because years ago,
it's
people that
the
look like
style
us couldn't
of
serve
the
on
paper.
juries.
If
It's
you have a
prohibited.
4-year college
I want you to talk
degree, you
about
have
jury
done
service in
similar
Georgia
papers.
and
You
discrimination.
wouldn't ask
at a
this
minimum,
for a
those
person
4
who
things, okay?
has
And you can talk
a
about anything else you want
sixth
to,
grade education.
in that regard. I am going to give you a date 3 weeks hence that paper needs to be submitted to me electronically. And we're going to run it through a plagiarism checker. You got to write it yourself. And then you're going to come back and talk to me about it. I think that would be fair under the circumstances, because this is that important. I have to account for all of you who summoned, and I'm still looking for folks that it didn't appear. So I'm not picking on you. I'm sorry that you got a little bit of attention in this respect, but the attention is how serious we view this whole aspect of jury service and participation in the process, so we can get a fair juror and a lawful trial as to both sides. So I'm not trying to
It's
make it
entertainment,
public and
folks.
exercise in that. So do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So what I'm going to do is, today is the 12th. You need to have it written and submitted to me by the 3rd of February. to my county email address, ural.glanville@fultoncountyga.gov. I'll have that in order. You won't.
I
you
think
won't
it's
have to-
specified
okay.
as
Mark
the
my
font,
calendar here.
Yes, sir.
the APA.
Okay, and then,
Okay. That was that bit. So now we have a little bit more information about how the judge might act there in this trial, which also can tell us a bit more on how he acts generally. Now, if he's this rough on rules, then we will see how he will act in the actual trial. So that's information that now you and I have. So even if it might be a waste of the court's time or her time or the judge's time, it's not really a waste of our time as we are watching this. Now, let's move on to this one. Let's see what happens here. Oh, damn, wrong. Sorry. Share this. Share the wrong screen. Sorry. Let's begin again. And I have subtitles on.
Yes.
Do you understand that you are not allowed to possess or use a firearm while on probation?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you are not a United States citizen? A guilty conviction will affect your immigration status and will result in deportation, just like a conviction at a trial would, and that this is true regardless of any advice by your attorney or anyone else. Are you a U.S. citizen?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Do you
This
understand
is
that there may be other adverse or
a
unfavorable
YSL
consequences as a
gang
result
member.
of this guilty plea conviction?
Yes.
Just as there would be from a conviction following a trial.
Yes, ma'am.
For example, your guilty plea may affect your right to vote, your right to hold public office, your right to serve on a jury, your right to obtain a passport, your right to receive, possess, or transport a firearm.
No, we do
or
not
the ability
give
to
out
obtain
legal advice on
employment.
this channel.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty to a felony, if you use, receive, possess, or transport a firearm, or use a firearm in a crime,
I forgot to swoop
you will be guilty
down.
of a felony which may carry a sentence of 1
You have to
to
remind me,
10
chat, to swoop.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you waive any and all offenses, including any mental health offenses, by entering a plea of guilty?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that if you went to trial, you have the right to a trial by jury, the right to see, hear, and confront witnesses called to testify against you, and the right to testify to remain silent and not incriminate yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you are giving up the following rights, and after each right, I want you to answer if you understand that.
Yes.
First, the right to a trial by jury.
Yes.
Next, the right to remain silent and not incriminate yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
Counsel hired by you or as a court-appointed counsel if you cannot afford an attorney at the trial of your case.
Yes, ma'am.
The right to the presumption of innocence.
Yes, ma'am.
The right to testify on your own behalf and to present other evidence.
Yes, ma'am.
It is your decision to waive these rights and use a guilty plea because you're a fed guilty.
Yes, ma'am.
With respect to indictment 22 SC 183-572, where you're charged with count 1, conspiracy to violate the Racketeering, Influence, and Corrupt Organizations Act. Count 47, conspiracy to commit a crime. Count 48, participation in criminal street gang activity. And count 55, conspiracy to commit a crime. How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Is this guilty plea freely and voluntarily given with a full knowledge of the charges against you?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you have only a limited right to appeal this guilty plea conviction?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you have 4 years from today's date for the felony charges to file a habeas corpus petition challenging the voluntariness of this person.
Yes, ma'am.
And Your Honor, if this case were to go to trial, the state would expect to show and prove that between January 24th of 2013 and May 8th of 2022, that the enterprise known did unlawfully conspire to acquire and maintain and control of the United States currency and other personal property through a pattern of racketeering activity. And also, while members were associated with that enterprise, did unlawfully conspire to conduct and participate in directly in racketeering activity.
This is another YSL gang member who pleads guilty ahead of the Young Thug trial. If Saint Laurent had a gang. Sure. I don't know what YSL stand for. Oh, it says a record label or something. YSL. I don't know what it means. Let's see here. Young Stoner Life Records. It would appear so. We do know, I've read a little bit about it, that a bunch of YSL members pled guilty and is now going to testify against Young Thug. So it will be a really, really interesting trial in that regard, because with that many snitches, I don't know how much of a chance Young Thug has. But then again, how much credibility does these people have? I'm not a fan of the, if you talk against that person, we will reduce your sentence. What is there to say? Okay, I lie my head off. Yeah. Let's continue.
As described in our indictment, Your Honor, associates of the enterprise, YSL, or Young Slime Line, they did conspire to associate together with others for the common purposes of illegally obtaining money and property.
1970 RICO Act, and Young Thug, it's for gang activity and everything around it.
In the activities enumerated within our indictment, some of the objectives, Your Honor, include to preserving, protecting, and enhancing the reputation, power, and territory of the enterprise through acts of racketeering activity, including murder, assault, and threats of violence. Also preserving, protecting, and enhancing the reputation.
I don't know. He has 6 kids with 4 women.
Images,
so
videos, and songs demonstrate an allegiance to the enterprise.
Even if it is, which one?
On its behalf, those are some of the ways in which they try to further the enterprise. Your Honor, the state would expect to show that this YSL started in the late 2012 in the Cleveland Avenue area of Atlanta, Georgia, and that some of the founders of this enterprise was Jeffrey Williams, also known as Young Thug, also known as Slime, Walter Murphy, also known as DK, and Trotavia Stevens, also known as Tick, and also known as Slime.
Oh, it's just her talking now.
This group uses a variety
Well, he pled guilty.
including
So, yeah. This is then probably one of the former gang members who will testify against Mr. Young Thug, but it says, yeah. So apparently he's also called Slime. 6 kids. Who would do that? Well, we can always ask Mo. Why would you have 6 kids? But sorry, Mo. no great success. We should not bring back lynching or public hangings. That's a really bad idea. Now, what else do we have here? We have this.
Good afternoon, counsel. Answer part for your record. Versus Trontavia Stevens in indictment 22 SC 183572.
So this is gang member number 8 who pled guilty and apparently is agreeing to testify against Young Thug. Let's listen in.
Good evening, Ms. Gladden, and good evening, Mr. Stevens.
Good evening, Your Honor.
Good evening. And good evening, Ms. Love, and good evening, Ms. Hilton. All right. Mr. Stevens, can I get you to raise your right hand the best you're able, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the evidence you shall give in the matter now in hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, help you God, or so firm?
I do.
All right, you need to speak up, sir.
I do.
Okay, all right. Put your hand down. All right, Mr. Stevens, over the next several minutes, I'm sure Ms. Gladden has probably told you, we're going to go through what's called a providency inquiry. Half of it is what we call your Boykin rights. That means those are constitutional rights that every criminal accused enjoys. Meaning, because in our system of jurisprudence, we don't force people to plead guilty. So courts have to make sure you understand your rights and you give those up freely and voluntarily before I can sentence you, okay? So that's the first part. The second part of the inquiry, the state has to lay out a factual basis as to what they would have been able to prove at trial beyond a reasonable doubt. So assuming that they can, those two things, they pass, then I can determine that your plea is provident and accept your negotiated plea, okay? Yeah, you gotta answer
Yes, sir.
yes or no for the record. Okay, all right. So, Ms. Love, is it gonna be you, Ms. Love?
It's going to be.
Okay. Ms. Hilton is going to ask you a series of questions that's designed to get at the two areas we talked about. When she's done, your attorney, Ms. Gladden, will offer me some things on your behalf. And then you and I will have a short conversation and I should be able to accept your plea, okay?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. All right, madam, go right ahead.
Thank you.
Is your wife's name,
Yes, ma'am.
nickname Echo?
Mr. Stevens, if you could please state your true and correct legal name.
Trontavia Stevens.
And are you the same person referred to as Trontavia Stevens, also known as Tick and also known as Slug, on indictment 22 SC 183572?
Yes.
Are you at this time taking or under the influence of any alcohol, drugs, or medicine?
Why?
How old are you?
29.
And how far have you gone in school?
I got a GED.
Okay. Are you able to read, write, and understand the English language?
Yes.
Do you understand that you are charged in this indictment with count 1, conspiracy to violate the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act?
Yes.
Do you understand that you have the right to plead either guilty or not guilty to these charges?
Yes.
And if you plead not guilty or remain silent, you may receive a jury trial.
Yes.
Have you had enough time to speak with your lawyer, your attorney Gladden, about all the facts and circumstances known to you regarding the charge in this indictment?
Yes.
Have you also been able to speak with her about any potential defenses?
Yes.
Do you need any more time to discuss this matter with your attorney?
No.
Are you satisfied with her counsel and representation?
Yes.
Do you waive formal reading of the indictment?
Excuse me?
So waived.
Yes. I asked if you and your attorney waive formal reading of the indictment.
That means they don't want to read the charge.
If not, I got to read the indictment,
Oh.
So waived.
okay?
Yes.
All right.
Do you waive any and all defects, if any, with respect to the indictment?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens, have you been arrested on these charges?
You've been arrested on these charges.
Yes.
Okay. And Your Honor, the state is unaware of any outstanding warrants related to these charges. Ms. Gladden, are you aware of any outstanding warrants as it relates to these charges?
I'm not.
Okay. Has your attorney advised you of the minimum and maximum sentence for the charge in which you are pleading to?
Yes.
Do you understand that as to count 1, conspiracy to violate the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, that it carries a minimum of 5 years and a maximum of 20 years in custody?
Contavious?
Yes.
I don't know.
Do you understand this is a negotiated
Drug
plea
or
of
teach?
guilty, which means that the state will recommend to the court a sentence that I will read, but the court does not have to accept this recommendation, and that the court can sentence you to the maximum on each charge?
Yes.
Do you understand that?
Yes.
Do you understand that this plea, the state's offer on this plea is, as to count 1, 10 years to serve 2 years, commuted to time served with a balance of 8 years on probation? Do you understand that?
Yes.
Do you understand there are certain special conditions as it relates to this negotiation?
Yes.
For 1, you shall abide in full by each and all of the terms of this negotiated agreement, and your failure to abide by any of the terms of the agreement shall constitute a violation of this agreement. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Do you understand that you shall testify truthfully about all matters relating to this case upon which you are questioned at any trial or judicial proceeding stemming from the facts alleged in this indictment?
Yes.
Do you understand that in accordance with testifying truthfully about all matters related to this case, you acknowledge that each and all the statements contained within the defendant's factual acknowledgments portion of this agreement are true, and that you will testify truthfully about those statements and any matters related to this case when asked to do so?
Yes.
Do you understand as a special condition, you shall possess no guns unless your right to do so is restored?
Yes.
That you should also submit to random drug screens by the Department of Community Supervision and any agency designated by this court?
Yes.
That you shall commit no criminal acts?
Yes.
And that you will relinquish any Fifth Amendment right related to any statement contained within the defendant's factual acknowledgments contained within this plea agreement, and you will make no attempt at trial to assert a Fifth Amendment privilege when questioned on these matters. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Do you understand that some of the factual acknowledgments that you acknowledge is, 1, that Young Slime Life,
Yes,
aka
of
YSL,
course.
is an
This
organization
is
made up of
snitch
3 or
number
more members
8
or
in
associates
this RICO
who
trial,
share common
who is
identifiers
pleading
that
guilty.
include but are not limited to colors, hand signals, and terminology, who have committed crimes intended to increase the notoriety, street credibility, and reputation of YSL. Is that one of your acknowledgments?
Yes.
Do you also acknowledge that you were one of the founding members of Young Slime Life?
Yes.
Do you also acknowledge that you committed an act?
What did she say?
Members of Young Slime Life.
Young Slime Life? I thought it was Young Stoner Life. Or is that the label and they themselves call them? Okay, so the gang is Young Slime Life. Oh. Oh. Oh God. Yeah, respect us. We are the Young Slime Life gang. Oh. Oh. Was the cool names already taken in that area? Or was it, oh, the record label is YSL, we have to smoke a bong and then name our gang something, and so Young Slime Life. Ah, that's so stupid. Ah. Oh God. Okay. Give suggestion. YSL. Anything that is more appropriate for a street gang than young slime life. YSL. Let's give me some suggestions here. Yarn sewing league. It's a old woman's gang. YSL. Okay, we have a winner. You so lame. You so lame. Yeah. Yeah. No, I saw. Young slime life. I googled young slime life gang, and it's actually called young slime life. Oh. Yeti Sasquatch lives. Yeah. You suck life. Oh. Oh, wife. Oh, Jesus. Let's continue.
Yes.
Do you also acknowledge that you committed an aggravated assault as alleged in count 1 of this indictment by brandishing a gun at an undercover police officer that was surveilling a vehicle that was hijacked from a woman?
Yes.
Do you acknowledge that in October of 2014, you were arrested with a red bandana and you were observed with a YSL tattoo and a Cleveland Avenue Rock Crew tattoo, amongst other tattoos?
Yes.
Do you also acknowledge in that same incident when you were asked by law enforcement about your Rock Crew and your YSL tattoos, that you truthfully advised law enforcement that you were a member of a gang called Rock Crew, but that group is no longer going by that name and now goes by YSL, which originally stood for Young Slime Life?
Yes.
Did you also in that same conversation advise law enforcement that YSL originally stood for Young Slime Life, but the group began calling itself Young Successful Lifestyle after Jeffrey Williams, AKA Young Thug, signed a record deal?
Yes.
Do you also acknowledge that the statements made to police about Rock Crew and YSL, as reflected in sections 3 and 4 above, which I just mentioned, are true and accurate?
Yeah.
You acknowledge that you've been accused of and arrested for robbing women?
Yes.
You acknowledge that you are the same person referred to as Tick in the song by Young Thug entitled You, in the verse, She Getting Robbed by Tick?
Yes.
You also acknowledge that on February 4th, 2021, you participated in a group chat with fellow YSL founder Jeffrey Williams, AKA Young Thug, and YSL associates Wooney Lee, AKA Slime Life Shorty, wherein Jeffrey Williams stated, YSL rule the world, kid. Y'all just start bringing me the money. Man, y'all stop playing with me.
Are they using
Do you acknowledge
all
that?
lyrics in evidence?
Do you acknowledge that on May 13, 2021, you participated in another group chat with fellow YSL founder Jeffrey Williams, AKA Young Thug, and YSL associates Martinez Arnold, Miles Farley, Quantavious Greer, Antonio Sumlin, Wooney Lee, wherein Jeffrey Williams asked, y'all ain't beat him up or shot him yet? Then states, y'all getting soft.
Yes.
Do you acknowledge that the gas station at 151 Cleveland Avenue is a location where YSL associates sell drugs?
Yes.
That also the gas station at 221 Cleveland Avenue is a location where YSL associates sell drugs?
Yes.
And also, do you acknowledge that you cannot truthfully assert that anyone charged in this indictment is not guilty of the crimes as alleged in this indictment, and you will not make any attempt at trial, prior to trial or after trial to exonerate or exculpate anyone charged in this indictment of the crimes alleged in this indictment,
So
nor will
don't
you
change
claim that
your
anyone on
testimony.
this indictment is not guilty of the crimes as charged in this indictment.
Yes.
Do you also acknowledge that if you violate the plea agreement, the district attorney can and will use a statement during any judicial proceeding?
Yes.
You also understand and acknowledge that if you violate any portion of this plea agreement before, during, or after the initial trial of this case, you are subject to having the entirety of your sentence revoked,
Yes.
and you could be sentenced to prison.
Yes.
Do you also understand if you violate any terms of this plea agreement,
It's snitch
it will
number 8.
result
So it's
in
the
your
entire
sentence being
gang,
revoked, and the
more or
district
less,
attorney
is
will
snitching on
recommend
young
that you
thug.
serve up to the maximum sentence allowed by law in the Georgia Department of Corrections.
Yes.
Do you also understand fully that if prior to the conclusion of the initial trial of this case, that you fail or refuse to testify to any fact that you now acknowledge in this plea agreement, such failure or refusal constitutes a violation of this plea agreement, and you'll be subject to being sentenced to serve the remainder of your sentence confined within the Georgia Department of Corrections.
Yes.
Do you also acknowledge that no promises, agreements, or conditions have been made other than those set forth in this document, and none will be entered into unless memorialized in writing and signed by all parties?
Yes.
And did you, along with your attorney, sign this document and dated today's date, December 29th, 2022?
Yes.
And that's your signature here?
Yes.
Maybe another.
Do you
gang in the area?
understand that
I don't
this
know.
plea may be used to enhance sentencing on other convictions in this jurisdiction as well as in other jurisdictions, including the federal courts?
Yes.
Do you
What
understand if
I'm
you are
remembering.
currently on probation or parole, your probation or parole may be revoked based on your entering a guilty plea today?
What on it?
By law, they have to say that your probation.
Why that ain't in the paper though?
That's abortion rights. That's just.
I ain't read it. Can you repeat that?
Sure. I'm letting you know your rights. That's not something that's going to, I can't tell you that's something that's not going to happen. That's not something that we're asking for the court to do. But that's something that's a right that I have to read to you.
All right.
All right?
Yes, sorry.
So I'm reading your rights now. I'm going back to reading your rights that you're giving up by entering into a plea. Do you understand that if you are currently on probation or parole, your probation or parole may be revoked based on your entering a guilty plea today?
Yes.
Do you understand that if you are placed on probation of any kind, you cannot violate any criminal laws of any governmental unit or any special conditions of probation without being subject to revocation for the balance of the sentence?
Yes.
Do you understand that you are not allowed to possess or use a firearm while on probation?
Yes.
Do you understand that if you are not a United States citizen, a guilty plea conviction will affect your immigration status and will result in deportation?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you understand that there may be other
Under
adverse or
artistic freedom?
unfavorable consequences as a result of this guilty plea conviction, just as there would be from a conviction following a trial?
Yes.
For example, your guilty plea may affect your right to vote, your right to hold public office, your right to serve on a jury, your right to obtain a passport, your right to receive, possess, or transport a firearm, or the ability to obtain employment. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty to a felony, if you use, receive, possess, or transport a firearm, or use a firearm in a crime, you will be guilty of a felony which may carry a sentence of 1 to 15 years?
Yes.
Do you understand that you waive any and all defenses, including any mental health defenses, by entering a plea of guilty?
Yes.
Do you understand if you went to trial, that you have the right to a trial by jury, the right to see, hear, and confront witnesses called to testify against you, and the right to testify or to remain silent and not incriminate yourself?
Yes.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you are giving up the following rights? And after each right, I'm going to ask you to say yes or no if you understand, okay? You understand that you're giving a...
So this was snitch number 8. Can't listen to it anymore. Snitch number 8, which we saw one of the previous videos, was another snitch. So yeah, They have a lot of snitching going on to save their own arses. And yeah. And this was about, again, 5 months ago. So why has the trial gone? Well, there's a lot of shenanigans, a lot of young snitch life. Yeah, that's the new name, young snitch life. Yeah, a bit of shenanigans has postponed this trial for months after month after month. And late last week, they restarted jury selection. So probably there will be jury selections Monday and Tuesday as well, which gives me time to read in a bit more, maybe put up another stream with, so we get up to speed about everything. But let's watch this. This looks interesting. Uh-oh. Will there be a bailiff tackle?
This is what they want, y'all. Just chill. We know what's going on. Just chill. Everyone chill. And this is what you want. Say less. Right. Everyone chill. We playing chess here.
We'll see if he's around.
Not law enforcement, go ahead and clear the courtroom. Attorney, stay where you Everybody that's not law enforcement, please step out. Step out. Hold on now. We got a certain time that you get better experience. You go over and tell me there's not law enforcement to me. You don't have to do it. Go ahead and step out. Let them have a seat. Excuse me. Have a seat for me, please. Step out. Please step out.
Yeah, that was one of the occasions when the courtroom kind of went up in a ruckus. And, well, so with problems with the jury selections, a bit of ruckus in the courtroom, and welcome to the People of Walmart Courtroom Antics channel. Yeah. And it's been very interesting to look through the law and see a word coverage of this trial, to just choose from different videos and stuff like that. You record it. There have been very few instances in Swedish courts when they had to evacuate the courtroom. But it has happened. But I do believe US courts are a bit more noisy, so to speak. And now let's go into this.
Next matter, Mr. Johnson. How are we doing on that paper? I mean, the importance of professionalism. Yours is due by the 28th of April. I'm just clocking. So we on track? Well, your better half said she's not writing it for you either. Okay, well, just want to let you know that, okay? All right, so we're good? I'm sorry? Because that wasn't offered to you. You already asked me, could I pay the $1,000? I told you no. Well, I know you would, but that's not what's on the table.
Apparently more than one.
28, yes, at noon. Or you do 20 days. It's 17-page paper on the importance of professionalism in the legal field and treating one's opponents with civility. Paper is to be published quality in APA format and at least 10 primary and 10 secondary sources. Means that we should be able to send it to the to either the Georgia any one of our law, or actually law review, or any other place that accepts publications, and it should be acceptable. Say again? Say again, Mr. Jimenez?
It's very difficult to get published, you know. I've never been published.
Okay, all right, okay. But that's another issue that we're not going to deal with today. But anyways, okay, so Mr. Johnson, are we good with that? I mean, it needs to be a scholarly quality, basically, okay, that you would, it's error-free and that you would turn in to satisfy a writing requirement.
Okay. Per Corn Pope's request, Kitty. Not. Have you been under a car? You're dirty. And I really don't want to give you a bath, because then you will spend 2 weeks trying to kill me. Close. There, Kitty. Yes, Hugo has gotten really big. He is thriving, and he's starting to have flowers. There's one right there. I don't know if you see it. Beautiful white flower. I don't know if it will become chili fruit out of it. Cat. That's Jingles. And his name is Jingles because when I got them, I put a necklace with a bell on it. And his brother is called Buster because that's what he did to my arm when I tried to put a necklace with a bell on it. So that's Jingles. He is the farm cat. I've had him for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 years now. Who was between 1 and 3 years old when I got him. They found him and his brother at an abandoned barn, and the person who found them couldn't take care of them, so I offered my place for them. And after about 2 years, then his brother Buster moved across the field to my aunt, so he is their farm cat now. Yeah, this cat doesn't even have a necklace. He haven't had a necklace in years because somehow he finds a way to remove them. Ow! Tenderizing my leg. Yeah, so that's the story about my cats. I might extend on that story on because I have a more casual stream in a few hours. Where we go through more positive news and stories and stuff like that. Yeah, and Jingles is actively trying to. Well, he's not using my legs as a scratch pole. He's tenderizing the meat, expecting I will drop down anytime. He's a cat. What can I say? And he does a good job here at the farm, keeping it free from rodents and stuff. Now, where were we? Yeah, this guy. Yeah, threatens a lawyer with 20 days for contempt of court.
That's not what the order says, sir. Well, I'll put it this way. As long as you write it yourself and it is completed in the format as dictated, ABA.
Oh, he hasn't have a color in
10
years.
primary and 10 secondary sources, that will satisfy the contempt. I mean, I'm going to read it, and and if I don't find it to be of suitable quality, you'll redo it. But the other thing is, if you don't do it, the other option I have is to jail you for 20 days because it's not satisfactory. So I would suggest that you write it in a satisfactory manner. I'm not, lawyers, we talk and write. That's our trade and stock. So I think you'll be able to do it. I know you'll be able to do it. You pass the competitive examination, you're a licensed lawyer, you have a 6-digit bar number. I am certain that you can do this assignment. Any other questions, sir? Okay. All right. Mr. Menendez, good morning, sir. You were supposed to buy lunch for your colleagues. Have you done that as of yet? You were supposed to have done that by March the 17th. Did you go to, I told you Jason's Deli. Did you satisfy that?
Okay, so this judge apparently is known for unusual punishments for lawyers he deems to not be of. Yeah. Interesting. So now we know more about the judge who is presiding this young thug case. Let's see other ways he does.
All right, Juror 1004, good morning, madam.
Good morning.
Madam, just to recap, you were summoned as a juror on the 17th of March of this year to begin the jury selection process. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And during that particular process, do you recall, and let me back up just a second, because of conduct that occurred or alleged conduct that occurred
buying lunch to his colleague,
the 17th of March, you were served with a order to show cause. That was filed on the 20th of March of this year to appear on this date, the 3rd of April at 10 o'clock in Courtroom 1C. You received a copy of that notice, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
All right. And that notice also puts you gave you sufficient notice that as to why you should not be held in willful contempt for violating the court's admonitions against improper jury behavior, specifically live streaming the jury selection process on Friday, March the 17th of 2023. Do you recall that?
She recorded the jury process. Ooh, that's a really, really bad idea.
That I'm going to include that as a copy of the next court exhibit in order. That's your notice that we gave you. So you are at this point in time. Why shouldn't I hold you in willful contempt?
Okay, so I'm going to explain everything that happened that day on the 17th of March.
Okay, but before then, do you recall this court giving you the ad nauseum admonitions about acceptable behavior?
About having phones out?
Yes.
At the moment when we came in,
Didn't I tell you to turn your phone off?
it was, I'm going to be truthfully and very honest. When it was a lot going on, we had just come from different
Answer my
floors.
question first, and then you can explain it. Do you recall us telling you to turn off your cell phones?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you also recall me going through a litany of different things that would cause us to potentially put the case in jeopardy. Do you remember me saying that to you?
I mean, I couldn't hear. It was so much people. It was so many people talking and so many people doing different things. So
people were talking when I was giving that admonition to you?
Yes.
Meaning that you didn't hear it? You didn't
Yes.
hear any of the 10 minutes that I went through on the record about the things you couldn't do? Specifically, you couldn't research on Google. You couldn't go ahead and otherwise contact your friends on social media. Do you remember that?
Well, I remember the part when you saying we had to, but I didn't hear the turn off the phone.
You
until the
remember
middle
me
of the
talking
speech.
about no social media?
Yes.
Do you remember me also pointing to the placards that are on the wall about social media and the things you cannot do?
And I didn't see that until after the fact.
You don't recall me pointing that out to you?
No, sir.
That's not a bright young lady.
But you were, in fact, told to, one, put away your phones, and two, that you could not otherwise, you do remember, you couldn't otherwise post, pin, tweet, or otherwise
And I didn't.
send anything to social media.
Correct, I didn't.
But you did live stream our proceedings, didn't you?
It wasn't live streamed at all.
So what exactly did you do then?
Okay, so when you was giving the speech, everybody was talking. I did take a video, and then the young lady next to me, she was like, "Man, we're not supposed to be recording." Soon as they said that, I deleted everything right then and there. Maybe an hour went by. That's when the officer came up to me and said, somebody had told us that you may be recording. So I showed them the phone. They went through my recent deleted photos and seen the video that I made. But it was already deleted because the young lady next to me had told me that you did say we wasn't supposed to be doing any of that. And this is my first time. That was my first time ever being in court in my whole entire life. So I wasn't really sure of anything we couldn't and could not do. So I do apologize for that.
Madam, I went through a very long and arduous process
Pay attention
of telling people
when
what
a
they
judge
could not
is
do.
talking.
And you violated
General
that.
advice.
And you put this trial in jeopardy because of doing that, because of your actions of that. And I told you that the reason that we put such a big emphasis on this is because people actually do this kind of stuff. They go ahead and they take pictures. They go ahead and visit the scene. They go ahead and talk to their friends on social media. They talk about and try and learn things about the case that they're not supposed to. Aren't presented in the four walls of this courtroom.
Yeah, it wasn't posted on social media or any type of.
Well, I know that, but I told you don't even get on your phones and to not record anything.
And I didn't notice that until the middle of the court.
Well, the lady sitting behind you saw you going ahead and videotaping these particular proceedings, and that was in violation of this court's order. So contempt is punishable by a fine of $1,000 and or 20 days in jail. Madam, I think that given
the amount of time and energy and effort and care we spent in making that particular pronouncement. And I tell it multiple times for multiple reasons. And you decide you're going to just do what you wanted to do.
It's not
Pull out your phone
doing what I wanted to do.
Well, you pulled out your phone and videotaped our proceedings, and that was in direct violation of this court's order. So I'm going to sentence you to 3 days of in jail, and that will otherwise satisfy your contempt. So
it's not going to be the payment? I thought you said.
No, I'm not going to fine you $1,000 because this court, I've given this same admonition a number of times, and there are varying reasons that we punish people in society. Okay, I'm just going to tell you the reasons are: one, just general is retribution, eye for an eye. The second reason that we punish people is for general deterrence. We don't want other people doing this kind of same thing. Third reason is specific deterrence. That means we don't want you doing this again. And then it's rehabilitation and reentry. So, ma'am, in this particular situation, unfortunately, I have told several people and made several iterations of this particular notice. And you videotaped our proceedings. It was just a brazen violation of these particular proceedings. I told you not to. If you just left your purse in your pocket, you would have not even put yourself in this particular predicament.
Right, but there was so much going on.
That doesn't excuse your behavior, and doesn't give you.
I didn't hear every.
Madam, that does not excuse your behavior, and it doesn't provide it's an excuse for behavior, because there is no reason you couldn't have taken your phone and put it in your purse when we told you to do that, right?
Correct.
Instead, you took your purse out. You had to go through several manipulations to turn on the video feature for you to go ahead and videotape these proceedings. Is that right? It just didn't come on by itself, right?
Yes, sir.
So that's willful. That's you like saying to me, Judge, I don't care what you said about this kind of behavior. I'm going to do what I want to do. So for that reason, that's why I'm going to hold you in contempt for 3 days, and that will otherwise satisfy your contempt.
This judge isn't joking around, and I agree. This was called for. I mean, how can you survive up to an adult age and not understand that you're not supposed to film in court proceedings by phone? I know law and crime, but they have permission, and they don't record other jury members. Now, oh wait, there's more. I'm going to go like this first, because I don't want you to see. Let's see how fast I can do this.
All right, councilors, good morning. Could everybody please be seated? Let me take up a couple of housekeeping matters to begin with. First one being, it has been brought to the court's attention that Mr. Menendez has been taken into custody this morning. And I'll let that process kind of play out. However, due to that particular issue, the court's going to go ahead and sever Mr. Farley on its own motion. I'm doing that based upon a couple of cases. Hill versus the state at 239 Georgia 278, as well as Harrington versus the state at 315 Georgia Appeals 101, which basically state both cases read in tandem, state for the proposition that I, as the trial court, have discretion to sever even on my own motion prior to trial. And since we have not impaneled the jury and they haven't been sworn, I'm going to exercise that particular discretion on the court's behalf. So At this point, I'm going to take roll at this point. See who's here, and then we'll figure out what goes on for the day. Mr. Beebe, Mr. Partridge? Good morning. Mr. Stillwell and Mr. Sharp and Mr. Botts, good morning, gentlemen. Mr. Williams, Mr. Steele, Mr. Adams, good morning, gentlemen. Mr. Mender, Ms. Fagan, good morning.
These are the
Mr.
lawyers
Kendrick,
for the different
let's see,
defending
Mr. Weinstein?
defendants.
Good morning. Mr. Huey, Mr. Matthews, good morning. Mr. Myrick and Ms. Bernard, good morning. Mr. Nichols and let's see, Mr. Garner? Good morning. Mr. Adams and Ms. Callum, good morning. Mr. Blaylock and Mr. Hill, good morning. Mr. Dorsey and Mr. Jimenez, good morning.
Good morning.
All right. Mr. Eppinger and Mr. Johnson, good morning. Okay. And Mr. Ryan and Misty Williams, good morning. Okay.
Not all
All right,
videos
State, given
are
where we
YSL
are,
related.
and
A
where
few
we
of
find
the
ourselves,
jury videos are
do
just
you have any
this
other
judge
witnesses
how
that
he
would
conducts
be
his courtroom.
appropriate to handle Mr. Sharp's matter or any other things we have planned for today?
Yes, Your Honor, and 3 witnesses are still available. The 3 witnesses are still available to handle the rest of the March 16th motions, which deal with Mr. Stillwell.
Is that correct, Mr. Sharp?
Yes, may I ask just one clarification because I couldn't quite understand the court. Did you say that Mr. Farley is severed from the case for these motions, correct?
Mr. Farley's been severed. I mean, he'll go on for the, with the other folks that I have for trial.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Now I have one more to show you. Let me just bring that up.
Yes, Mr. Weinstein.
Yeah, Your Honor, I would just like to put on the record for today that I was asked to leave the courtroom and I was instructed to leave all of my bags, computer behind. I have no way of knowing if my bag or my computer was searched. I don't know if any client confidences were leaked during that process. I have no idea what happened.
Captain Kendall, can you show Mr. Weinstein the video that we, on this particular proceedings when we were out of the courtroom?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, does that satisfy you?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, all right. Anything else?
That's all, Your Honor.
Okay, all right. Ladies and gentlemen, unless we have anything else, I'll go ahead and excuse for the evening. Okay? Huh? Yeah. You may.
Your Honor, I don't know if the record properly depicts what occurred.
We don't know what occurred. You're gonna need to file a motion.
I'd like to,
though, Your Honor, everybody stands when you come in courtroom or leave. We have respect for you. Mr. Williams is innocent. We came here to have a fair trial. And that's what you do. That's why we're going through this process that's taking months. And that's okay, because we're talking about something that could end people's lives. So it's worth it. I am not saying this is accurate, but I was told, and there's witnesses here, I was told that I could not call them, I don't know who they are, but that they were alerted to come to your honorable court today because there was going to be something newsworthy. This, the media was called allegedly by, now I'm not saying any of these prosecutors, but by somebody with their office. And if that really happened, that's outrageous. To be in the middle of a hearing.
That's why I'd like you to file a motion so that we don't further taint the proceedings, or I get a chance to kind of see what everybody's allegations are.
And that's, and I don't know if I can file it, but somebody can, because I didn't speak to those people. But Your Honor, that's exactly what we don't want to happen. You know, Mr. Williams doesn't want to start over. He doesn't want to do this again. He is struggling every day. He gets here, as the court knows, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning. He gets no sleep, but we are fighting for his liberty. And Your Honor, if this was a orchestrated event, I feel like somebody needs to never do this again in any courtroom. And I know it was orchestrated because I know how Your Honor is. We've all do. We've been before each other a long time now. We were in the middle of a hearing, and to see one of our sheriff officials say, you know, get Mr. Ryan, it was clearly, or because nobody would disturb your court. So it was clearly orchestrated with somebody. So my point is, Mr. Williams has done nothing, to my knowledge, to obstruct anything. I have begged this honorable court to consider bond, and I respect your ruling. But the truth of this matter is, today was outrageous, and it does hurt our system of justice. And I ask the court to never, ever allow, if it happened, a spokesperson with the DA's office or anybody to have some inside information and make this really a farce. This was an embarrassment. Thank you, sir.
And like I said, if it's with anybody, if you feel that you need to put it in a motion for me to hear and consider, I would invite you to do so. So, and I can go ahead and take that up. Ms. Love?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd just like to state for the record and for clarity's sake that there is no way anyone from our office could have predicted the events that occurred today. To suggest that it was orchestrated by our office would necessarily lead to a conclusion that the results of today's events somehow were known to people other than the defendants in this case. And that's not possible. The sheriff's office is doing their very best to ensure that this entire courtroom is safe and secure. And to suggest that somehow this event of today was orchestrated would again necessarily imply that we knew that there would be wrongdoing going on and wanted to capture it on camera somehow. So I categorically object to the idea that the state has somehow done some unethical thing and orchestrated an event that only the defendants knew, and thankfully the sheriff's department learned was happening today.
No, I'm just, please, just sit down, Mr. Sharp. Just sit down.
Okay.
Just sit down. Thank you. I've reiterated this time and time again about professionalism. I've tried cases in front of most all of you for a while now. And most courts, in fact, all courts give counsel the benefit of the doubt, and we give you wide latitude to try your cases. So I don't think that anybody in here intentionally comes into court and tries to disrupt our proceedings. So I give you that as a foundational basis. However, what our sheriff's department and other law enforcement professionals are in charge with, and that's the responsibility of keeping everyone in here safe. There are things that they do and that are done outside of our presence to keep our safety at the forefront. And we're going to just have to trust the process. I don't know what happened today. For whatever reason, we'll find out at some point in time. So just let the process proceed, and don't try and cast aspersions on anybody, okay? That's just the basic fundamental truth of everything.
So now you might understand more reasons to why I am so intrigued by this trial. And in about 15 minutes, I can use the correct vocabulary, but yeah. And again, I'm having issues with my Wi-Fi internet connection. Now I have this I promise will be the last video we will watch.
Mr. Greer, I take no pleasure in us being here again, but do you recall when I sentenced you on the 20th of December that I went through certain things that you were expected to do at that point in time? You remember that? Do you remember? I'd like you to turn to page 13. All right, about line 11, the question I asked you was, do you understand that if you're placed on probation of any kind, you cannot violate any criminal laws of any governmental unit or any special conditions of probation without being subject to a revocation for the balance of the sentence? Your response was yes. Is that correct? All right. And in the next question on line 16, do you understand that you're not allowed to possess or use a firearm while on probation?
Yes,
All right, you remember we had that saying? I mean, we had that conversation about that? Okay, all right. On the next page, on page 14, you remember, and this is, I just wanted to kind of just point this out to you. Do you remember we had that conversation about you run the risk of subjecting yourself to additional charges if you have a firearm? Remember on page 14 about line 11, I want you to read that to yourself. That's not what you're being associated today with, but you remember we had a conversation, we had a lot of conversation about firearms, and Ms. Love's right. About 6 things in this plea colloquy talk about firearms.
Yes,
So do you remember us talking about that?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. And Mr. Greer, you remember on page 21, I asked you how old you were and about your family?
Yes, Your Honor.
And about how, we talked to you about being put on a curfew. That's on page 22.
Yes, Your Honor.
You remember that?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And then,
Thank you, Gigi. Everybody say thank you to Gigi for being my mod.
turn to page 26 at the very top of the page. You remember me talking to you about, this is me, the court. You shall possess no guns during the term of your sentence or any time after unless your right to have it or possession of a firearm has been restored. All right? And your answer? Yes, Your Honor. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
On that same page on line 19, also, when we talked about the special conditions of your sentence, also, you will possess no guns during the term of the sentence or at any time thereafter unless your rights are restored. This is a special condition of probation. You remember us talking about that?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right.
And if you don't know, this is Young Thug's brother. Intelligence runs in the family. You can't possess a gun, but it's a pistol. I don't know.
You remember you signed, I want you to turn all the way to the end. It's on page 34. It's dated December the 12th of 2022. It is, the title of it is Office of the Fulton County District Attorney, Atlanta Judicial Circuit. And it's got 1 current charges, 2 negotiated sentence, 3 special conditions of probation, 4 defendant's acknowledgements, and it's your plea agreement. You understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, I want you to turn to that. I want you to take a look at paragraph number 2, negotiated sentence. B in that particular paragraph. What does that say?
Defendant should possess no gun during the term of the sentence and the other after should be restored.
Defendant shall possess no guns during the term of the sentence or at any time thereafter unless his right to do is restored. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. And your signature is on page 37. Is that correct? That you've read this agreement, you've had an opportunity to speak to Mr. Russ, Ms. Norman about this agreement and no other promises other than the ones made in the document in furtherance of this agreement. And you gave this freely, voluntarily entered into this agreement without force, threat, or coercion. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So it's not like we didn't have a conversation about this firearm, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
So as I mentioned earlier, I don't take pleasure in sending people to prison. It's part of the job and the responsibilities I have as part of what potential consequences are of people's actions. But in this particular circumstance, the state has alleged that you didn't pay your probation fees, and okay, and I've heard evidence that you haven't paid your fees. You owe $141.08 in fees. You haven't started any of the community service in this particular case, so I find those to be proven violations. But those are relatively minor. I mean, we still want you to adhere to all the conditions, but they're the three violations and the grade of those violations, they're not as severe as getting a new case, okay? A new charge. And part of the special condition was that you're not supposed to possess a gun.
Okay, good to know.
And the state was very clear, and in Ms. Pretty testified earlier about what the things that you were given in terms of your reporting in states 1 and 2. And then Ms. Goodacre came in and specifically you signed acknowledgement of firearm in states 3 and prohibition of possessing firearms or ammunition in states 4. And then I saw states 6 and 7, which was the Glock 9 that was taken from the vehicle, which you were the driver, shaded 3 to 4 inches from that. So I find that based upon the evidence presented in this case, the state has proven by preponderance of the evidence that you have violated your probation in the 3 means as set forth in paragraph 4 on the petition. Now, in terms of the revocation, your attorney has asked me to consider a revocation of 2 years. And I certainly respect her, and I certainly respect that, you don't know unless you ask. The issue I find aggravating in this particular circumstances are several. You got arrested with a gun within 6 months of you being placed on probation. And I agree with the state that you're not a candidate for probation because all you had to do is just complete your probation and do what you're supposed to do. Instead, you were riding around the car with a gun in violation of your probation and what this court explicitly had conversations with you about. Explicitly on the record. And for that reason, sir, I'm going to revoke the balance of 9 years and 6 months.
Ooh.
And you will serve that in the Department of Corrections. And that will be the sentence of the court. Anything further? No, Your Honor. All right, that'll be the sentence of the court. Okay, we're in recess.
Okay, that was F around and find out. Damn, yeah. Okay. So apparently, family of a young thug is, not maybe the sharpest tool in the box or whatever you call it. And so first you have why I'm so intrigued with this trial. All the shenanigans that have taken place in the courtroom, the allegations from the lawyers getting forced to write essays, jurors who clearly shouldn't be trusted with matches, yet alone being in a jury. And then the RICO case. So yes, I am going to cover this trial. Now, we don't know. They restarted jury selection or jury questioning Friday. It will probably go on for a while because it's a long-ass trial. But I will cover it. Maybe not on a daily basis, whole streams, but when I can, I will. I will do summaries, and I will maybe catch up during the weekends, because this might be a 6-month trial. So we will have plenty of time. Well, it was supposed to start in February, and now on Friday they are a few days ago they restarted the jury selection, and that will go on for a few days because not everybody can be a juror on a 6-month trial. Unless he please, but I don't think I don't think the prosecution will, because they have at least 8 people from the Young Slime Life gang. YSL, Young Slime, yeah. Oh, yeah. Now, of course you want to torture me, don't you, David? I will do as much as I can. If I have the ability, if I have the possibility or to do a full day of stream, I will. If I can do a summary, because I do have a day job, and sometimes that day job goes into the weekends, and yeah, at least 6 months. Yeah, so I will be busy for the rest of the year. But remember, every Tuesday and Saturday at 6 p.m. my time, noon Eastern Standard Time in the US, me and David we will continue doing the Jodi Aries stream, the Jodi Aries trial on the dot, Tuesdays and Saturdays. Oh. Now, almost 2 hours. That was what I expected. I can't find anyone to send you off to who is doing a stream in the next couple of hours. So I will just send you off to my next stream. It will be in 2 hours, and it will be a casual stream. It's it's Sunday stream. We will try to have some fun watching some more fun stories and stuff like that. And yeah, well, so you go on, have dinner, go out in the sun, use sunscreen and everything. Yeah, and I will hopefully see you all back here in 2 hours. Hit the like button before you go. Subscribe if you haven't. I just passed 1,900 subscribers, and I'm hoping that I can get to 2,000 subscribers before my midsummer stream on the 24th. So that's my goal. Out, enjoy the sun, or stay in if it rains or if it's too hot. Grab something cool to drink, and I will see you in 2 hours. Have fun, folks.